After leaving Mississauga, I reached Shoots Provincial Park in Ontario on August 8, 2023. The park was completely full, and I was relieved I'd had the foresight to book campsite number 66 the day before. Despite that, the night was very quiet, and I slept well. Soon, I'll be heading towards Sault Ste. Marie, where I plan to cross the Canada-US border and enter Michigan.
So here I am at Caldwell Lake Campground, in Michigan's Hiawatha National Forest. I chose campsite number 26, which happened to be available for just one night. After filling out the recreation fee permit, I placed $22 in the envelope and dropped it into the metal payment box, officially becoming a legal occupant of the campground. While driving the tent pegs into the ground, I quickly discovered that the soil was extremely hard. I needed either a rock, which I couldn't find, or a hammer, which I ended up borrowing from campers at the neighboring site. I went for a walk around the campground. It was very pleasant, and I wished I could have stayed longer. Back at my campsite, I had a cold beer, read a book, and turned in around 9:30 p.m. This is Eastwood Campground in the Chequamegon, Nicolet National Forest, where I'll be spending my last night before arriving in Victoria tomorrow. There are about 20 campsites here, but only 2 are currently occupied. Many of the site posts, however, already have reservation stickers attached, which means the campground will likely be quite full over the weekend. I chose campsite number 5 and paid $15. The campground hosts were at the neighboring site, number 6, but they were away. With no one to talk to, I decided to have a snack, read a book, and turn in early. I'm certainly looking forward to a very quiet night. I've just arrived in the small town of Lublin, Wisconsin, not Poland. Walking through the local cemetery, I noticed many gravestones with Polish and Ukrainian-sounding names, quiet reminders of the area's immigrant past. There is a freedom oak planted in 2018 and replanted in 2022. And an old tank. Just across you can see the Legion Hall named after Abramovich, Kaczmarczyk and Kwikla, as well as the post office. This is St. Mary's Assumption Polish National Catholic Church in Lublin. Just around the corner, fittingly enough, is Warsaw Street, a small but telling detail. This is St. Stanislaus Catholic Church, the third church I've come across in this small community. I wish I could step inside, but all the churches are locked. Even so, their presence speaks volumes about the importance of faith to the area's early immigrants. I arrived in Victoria on August 11th, 2023. Today is September 24th, and I'm about to begin the journey back home to Ontario. In addition to spending 2 weeks at the cabin near Park Rapids, we explored many towns across Minnesota, went biking countless times, and, of course, had a wonderful time with the Munchkins. I'll be spending 2 nights camping in Wisconsin and Michigan, followed by a third night at Chutes Provincial Park in Ontario. Since the weather is expected to remain summer-like, I also plan to stay at 6 Mile Lake Provincial Park until October 1st. This is Catherine's RV trailer. Unfortunately, she doesn't enjoy towing it, and in any case, my car isn't powerful enough. Besides, I think we both prefer a smaller camper, easier to tow, easier to park, and easier to fit into more campsites. Maybe one day we'll get one. Last year, I bought this detachable bike carrier, and it's been excellent. I haven't had any issues with it, but just to be safe, I also secured both the bike and the carrier to the roof rack with straps. I'll need to drive about 500 kilometers today. The total distance from Victoria, Minnesota, to Mississauga, Ontario, is just under 1,800 kilometers. After driving 480 kilometers, I arrived at Bagley Rapids Campground in the Chequamegon, Nicolet National Forest. I chose campsite number 7, easily one of the best sites in the campground. Before pitching my tent, I had to clear the area of acorns scattered across the entire site. Just a few meters from my tent flowed a swift river. In fact, many reviews say that all you hear here is the sound of water and rapids, and they're absolutely right. I carried my chair down to the riverbank and sat there for a while, simply enjoying the view and the soothing rush of the water. And all of this for just $15 a night. Proof that some of the best things in life are almost free. It was a shame I was staying at Bagley Rapids for only one night. It really was an amazing place. I promised myself I'd come back the following year and stay longer. And I can tell you now, I did keep that promise. I didn't feel like having a campfire that evening. I hadn't brought any firewood, and I doubted I'd be able to buy any from the campground host. A few hours earlier, I'd stopped in Antigua, where I picked up a bottle of red wine for just $3.49. I decided it was perfect for this setting. In 2017, Catherine and I discovered this campground and spent a couple of nights here. We were the only campers, so it felt only right to return and spend a night here again. This is Three Lakes Campground, tucked away in Michigan's Hiawatha National Forest. I was hoping to get our old campsite, number 8, but since it was already occupied, I chose site number 5 instead, very close to the lake. I don't think many people are aware of this campground. Even this time, there were only a handful of campers. As the sun began to set, I was planning to carry my chair down to the lakeshore after finishing this video, to enjoy the evening light right from my campsite. Just a few minutes earlier, I had spoken with a couple from Maine who were heading to Canada the next day. I gave them a few tips about provincial parks and then added, half-jokingly, that they lived in the scariest state in the United States. They looked surprised, so I explained that many of Stephen King's stories take place in Maine. As you can see, the sunset over the lake is simply beautiful. Although campsite number 8, 6 years ago, was wonderful, this one is just as lovely. It's also very spacious. I can easily imagine a large family, or even a scouting group, enjoying it. The campsite costs $16 per night. Campers with the Golden Pass pay half, just $8. Back in 2017, I believe we paid only $5 or $6 since Catherine does have the pass. This is a fairly primitive campground, like many others I've stayed at on this trip. There are toilets but no showers. Campers must pack out their garbage, and water comes from a hand-operated well. Tomorrow, I'll cross the border back into Canada and return to Chutes Provincial Park. Since the distance is well under 300 kilometers, I'm hoping to finally take the bike down and enjoy a ride along the park roads. I'm back in Canada, at Chutes Provincial Park in Ontario. Crossing the border was completely problem-free. Officially, I'm allowed to bring back $750 worth of purchases, one large bottle of vodka, and 200 cigarettes. In reality, I rarely even buy half that amount, and I only ever bring alcohol. Either I nor my friends smoke, and besides, cigarettes in the US are quite expensive. Catherine and I spent some wonderful time in this park back in 2017, twice, staying at campsite number 98, which remains my favorite. I've managed to get that site on several occasions, but this time it was already occupied, so I chose campsite number 100, where I had camped before, in 2019. The park has changed noticeably since my visit here on August 8, 2023. Now, spectacular fall colors are everywhere, and leaves are already beginning to fall. Even though it's September 26th, the weather still feels like summer. I was very much looking forward to spending 4 additional days at 6 Mile Lake Provincial Park, and I even invited Patricia and her friend to join me. The name Chutes Provincial Park comes from the wooden chutes that were built over the rapids during the logging era to transport logs downstream. Of course, they've been gone for a long time now, and today we can only see them in old photographs and paintings. This is my favorite place in the park. I like sitting on the rocks close to the rapids, reading a book, or simply listening to the sound of the turbulent water. In spring, the water level is much higher, and you can still see large logs and tree branches resting on the rocks many meters above the present waterline. Sadly, over the past few years, several people have drowned here, most likely after swimming too close to the rapids and being pulled in by the current. Catherine and I often spend time on that beach, enjoying the view of the rapids from a safe distance. This photograph shows one of the chutes at this very spot, along with information about the history of the area. Trains still pass through the nearby town of Massey, and the tracks run just outside the park. Unfortunately, many railways across Ontario were abandoned decades ago and their tracks removed, a process that, sadly, still continues. Fortunately, some of these former rail lines have found a new life as biking trails. Today, September 27, 2023, I left Chutes Provincial Park. I stopped for a meal at the Hungry Bear restaurant just north of the French River, made a brief stop in the town of Parry Sound, and eventually arrived at 6 Mile Lake Provincial Park. This is campsite number 81. Catherine and I stayed here once before, around 2009 or 2010, over Thanksgiving weekend, and I also camped here again a few years ago. I have to park the car near the road and walk the rest of the way to the campsite. The campsite is located very close to a large beaver pond, complete with 2 beaver lodges and several resident beavers. It's a scenic and fairly private spot. There's only 1 campsite to the left and 2 or 3 to the right. Over the years, I've been lucky enough to observe some wonderful wildlife here. I've seen majestic great blue herons wading quietly through the pond, and plenty of chipmunks as well, some of them surprisingly friendly, and always eager to steal food. Several years ago, while driving on a road not far from the park, I spotted a rattlesnake crossing the pavement. Ontario has only 1 venomous snake species, the eastern Massasauga rattlesnake. It's quite rare, and I've seen it only about 5 times. These snakes tend to avoid areas with heavy human activity, which is why there have been no sightings inside the park itself. If you're especially lucky, you might also catch a glimpse of a black bear. Those sightings in the park are very rare. Yesterday, on September 30th, Patricia and Bruno arrived, and I moved to their campsite number 78, since mine was already booked for the night. We spent the evening around the campfire, staying up almost until midnight. The weather was still incredible, close to 30 degrees Celsius, sunny, and humid. According to the forecast, several weather records were expected to be broken over the following days. In the afternoon, we hiked a couple of trails in the park. They're short but very scenic, perfect for me. Later, we drove to Port Severn, where we attended Mass at the Catholic Church and still managed to stop at a store for a few cans of cold beer. In that heat, it tasted especially good. I had hoped to return to this park again in about 2 weeks to spend Thanksgiving here, but by then the weather had already turned. And so, this stay became my final camping experience of 2023.